Hey everyone, it's Krista. Today I just wanted to give you a quick tutorial on how to get your digital SLR set up and get started with it. So many of you over the past couple of years have begged me to do lessons or to do a tutorial of some sort. You've had this camera sitting around for a while, or you've gotten it as a gift and you just want to learn how to use it quickly. So I'm going to do a tutorial on how to get it set up and get started with it. First off, let's make sure that you're actually using a digital SLR. A digital SLR is a camera that has a large body. It's not going to fit in your pocket or in your purse. And it also has a detachable lens. So if your lens does not come off, or you have a small like phone camera, this video is not for you. Next, let's go ahead and grab your manual and your camera and your lenses and everything, and let's have them handy. Today I'm going to be using a Canon 7D and a Tamron lens and a couple other things. And this is not specific just to this camera. So if you have a Nikon or a Sony or anything else, most of this will apply to your camera as well, but you might want to keep your manual handy just in case it's a little different. You might have to look some things up. But to get started, we are going to first want to pop the battery in. So if you will flip your camera over, on the bottom there is a little camera battery compartment. And you're going to want to open that. All you have to do is take and put your finger in there and just pop it like that. You're going to grab your battery, which looks like this. And let's talk about this for just a second. This is the end that you want to put down into the battery compartment, okay? It has the little electronics, electrodes, and you just want to match that up with your battery compartment, and you're just going to slide your battery in there and pop it in. It should click when it's all the way in there. There's also a little white button right here. If you want to take your camera battery back out, all you have to do is pop that and it should slide right back out. So real easy. Just pop that in there, click, and then shut the compartment door, okay? Step one. Step two is we want to put your memory card in there. Depending on what kind of camera you have, you may have an SD card, you may have a CF card, or you may have both. Some have both as backups. Today we have a CF card for the 7D, and of course, where did it just go? It just disappeared on me. There it is. Okay, so this is your SD, this is your CF card. And if you'll notice on one end, there are little pinholes that are going to go down in the compartment, and that's what talks to your camera. So on the side here, let's scoot over. Okay, this is your CF card holder. You're going to pop that open, and it's going to click open like this. You're going to take your CF card, look for the little pinholes. That's going to go down in there first. It should slide in there very easily, okay? If it doesn't slide in easily, you probably have it the wrong way. So go ahead and slide it in, and then you're going to have to push at the very end to get it to pop in there. When you push at the very end, this little gray button will pop up, and that's how you get the card back out. So to get the card back out, you just push that, pops the card back out, easy. So let's go ahead and put that in there. And you're going to shut your compartment door. One thing I do want to mention right here is you never want to do that when your camera's on. You want to make sure that your camera is powered off when you put the card in or take it out. Because if the electricity is on to the card and you pull it out or you put it in, it can corrupt all the pictures on your card. You don't want to do that. And it can ruin all the pictures. So again, just be really careful about that. Make sure you're powered off whenever you put the CF or SD card in. So step two is done. Let me check my list here. Okay, that takes care of a couple of the first things. Next, we're going to talk about putting your lens on and off. And your camera may have come without a lens on it. It may have just had a little cover right here that covers this up. So you'll want to twist that off and pull it off, and then you'll want to get your lens. And I want you to notice a couple things. The lighting here today is not the greatest. It's a little cloudy out, but there is a little red dot right there, and you want to pay attention to that, okay? That red dot is going to line up with the red dot that is on your lens. So there's a little red dot right there. You want to line those two up, and then once they're lined up, you want to take and just twist the lens until it clicks, okay? It should click. Make sure it clicks. If it doesn't click, it's probably not on there all the way, and it could fall off, and you don't want that. That's really expensive. So turn it until it clicks. Now to get the lens back off, there is a button right here, okay? And how you're going to do this is you're going to wrap your hand around the bottom of the lens, and you're going to take your thumb, you're going to put it on that little button and push in, and then you're going to twist, and it should come right off, okay? So put it on, line up the red buttons, turn until it clicks. To take it off, push that little button, twist, and it comes back off. Easy. To set down your lens, let's talk about this really quick. When you take your lens off, ideally you want to go ahead and put your covers back on the front and on the back. And let me show you what that looks like. You're going to have covers on both ends, okay? The back end, the front end. Ideally, you always want to keep those on there because that'll protect it, keep it from getting scratches, keep it from getting dust inside the lens. One thing to note is dust can get inside of here, and it can actually get sucked inside the lens, and then you can't get it out without sending it back to the manufacturer. So it's really important to keep those on there because otherwise when you take a picture, there'll be little dust spots all over your photo, and you won't be able to get rid of them without photoshopping them. Well, there's some other ways, but it's really annoying. It's better just to avoid altogether. If you need to set down your lens, but you do not have the cap available, you've lost it, you're running around and you don't know where you set it, you don't ever want to set down your lens on this end. If you see those little electrodes, whatever they're called, if you set it down on that can scratch those or get them oily or dirty, and that's what communicates to your camera. So you don't want to do that. It'll really mess up the communication between your camera and the lens. If you need to set it down and you don't have the cap, you always want to turn to the front end of the lens, and you can set it down on a surface right there. Obviously carefully, you want to do it on something that's not dirty, but if you need to set it down for a second, that's where you set it down, okay? Go ahead and put the caps back on. Let's go ahead and put this lens back on the camera. Okay, line up those little red dots. Let's talk about a couple different kinds of lenses really quick. You either have a prime lens or a zoom lens. Two types of lenses, okay? A zoom lens, you can zoom in and zoom out to follow action. So let's say you have little kids or a dog or something that's moving and you don't want to switch lenses all the time. A zoom lens is great because you can zoom in and get a picture. You can zoom out as they run back towards you, and it's a great lens. But you may have a prime lens. A prime lens is the same as far as focus and everything, but it's a sharper lens. It's going to be a lot sharper in camera. Zoom lenses are great for versatility, but they're not necessarily always the sharpest. So if you want a perfectly crisp, sharp image, you're going to want a prime lens, which will not be able to zoom in and zoom out. So if you're looking at this and you're like, my lens doesn't do that, it's probably a prime lens. And we'll talk about that more in a future tutorial, how to tell the difference by looking at the front of the lens to know that. But if you have a zoom lens, you're going to have two areas that you need to know about. This area right here that's closest to your camera body is where you're going to zoom in and zoom out to catch action or to, get closer. This front area right here also will turn, and it's a ribbed area just like this area, but you don't want to mess with this unless you have your camera turned on to manual focus. This is a focusing ring, and if you want to manually focus, if for some reason your autofocus isn't working very well or you just want to have complete control, there is a little button right here, and all you have to do is click this over to M, okay? It says AF or M. AF is autofocus, M is manual. So If you want to use this focusing ring, make sure you turn this onto M for manual, and then you can focus with this, okay? And you can have complete control over everything. If you want to use autofocus, which is probably what the lens is on when it ships, you want to turn this to AF, and that will be, now your camera is going to control the focus, which is great in most situations. We'll talk about that more in depth later. So again, back ring is going to zoom in, zoom out. Front ring is your focusing ring. You only want to use that if you're on M for manual focus. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. A prime lens will be very similar, only it will not have this ring. It will not have this zoom in, zoom out ring. It will only have this. So if you only have one ring on here, then you can probably guess that you have a prime lens. Or you can look at the front and it'll just say one number, like a 50 millimeter or an 85 millimeter. So on a prime lens, you cannot zoom in and zoom out, but you can turn it on to M for manual focus and focus using your focus ring. So those are the differences between your two different types of lenses, manual or prime and zoom in, zoom lenses. So, okay, we've covered that. Let's talk about a couple more things and then we're going to be done for today. We'll save the rest for future tutorials on how to set up specific things inside the camera. Next, I want to talk about if you have a flash, okay? Most cameras are going to have a pop-up flash. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. And if you'll turn your camera on, there is a little button right here that looks like a lightning bolt, okay? It's like a little lightning bolt. If you'll push that, your flash will pop up and it's ready to use. And your camera should be able to just auto decide like what settings this is going to be at. Your camera will take care of all of that. This is great for night photography, obviously, if you have a fast-moving subject, or if you have the sun behind your subject and it's really bright behind them, but their face is kind of dark. You can also pop up your flash, and that's a great thing to use for that type of thing. The other thing you might possibly have is an external flash. Let me show you my flash. Now, this thing is beat up. I'm sorry, but I use my gear, like I use my equipment really hard. So I know you're thinking, that stuff is not very pretty. It's all beat up. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It gets used a lot. So let's talk about how you would put this on your camera. On the top of your camera, you have a hot shoe right here. And this hot shoe adapter is where your flash is going to slide into. On the bottom of this flash, you also have what's called your hot shoe on the bottom. And so when you go to slide that in, you want to line those two things up. And this part is always going to face back towards you with all of the controls. So make sure you have it. So this is facing backwards, okay? And you're going to slide that into the hot shoe. And then what you're going to do, you want to make, see right now it's kind of wobbly, okay? You want to make sure that you take this little lock right here and you're going to slide it over to the right until it clicks. Once it clicks, you know that it is good and solid on there. It shouldn't move around very well or very much, and you should be able to power it on or power it off. We'll go into this in more detail in future tutorials because there is a lot of stuff you can do with this. But it gets kind of complicated, so I'm not going to go into all that right now. Just know that in order to properly use it, usually the easiest way is to push this button on the side right here, and you're just going to rotate it down so that it's just pointing directly at your subject. You can also do some other things where you point it around the room and it bounces light and kind of fills in some shadows. But the easiest way to tell you is just to point it down, and it's on top of the hot shoe here. And when you turn your camera on and turn your flash on, it should be ready to go. If you don't have one of these, no worries. Just use your pop-up flash. But do know that in the future, this might be a good purchase because it allows you to do a lot of things that your on-camera flash does not allow you to do. So it gives you some better pictures, some better options. And again, we'll talk about that more in the future. But just know that going in, that that's a good option to have. Okay, so let's take that back off. Last couple things, and then you should be ready to rock and roll here. let's turn the camera on. You've got your battery in, you've got your memory card in, you've got your lens on. So let's go to the top here. And if you'll notice again, right here, you have your on-off switch. You're just gonna, well, mine's already on, but you're gonna turn it on. And if this is your first time using it, you're going to want to go back around to the back. You're gonna push your menu button right here, which is going to pop up all of your menus. First thing you want to do, and you're going to use either this wheel up here or this wheel to scroll through things, okay? And you can just kind of figure that out. You just turn it. Okay, so if you go to the first page, usually there's going to be a thing that says quality. I prefer to shoot in RAW because it gives you the best quality picture and it gives you the most options in editing. But if you want to shoot in JPEG, it's called, you'll be able to shoot more pictures on your CF card. Like it won't fill up your memory quite as fast. RAW, those are huge files. They're going to fill up your memory card super fast. So let's go ahead. You can make a determination on that, and we'll talk about that more in the future. But for now, either set it to RAW if you really want like the highest quality, or set it to JPEG on L for large if you want to fit a lot of pictures on this memory card, okay? And not have to switch out memory cards. So let's go ahead and choose that. The other thing you might want to do at this point is you might want to scroll over and put in your copyright information. You'll go through this and find copyright information. You can type in, you know, Krista Lee or your name, and well, don't type in mine, you know what I mean, and type in your name and your information. You also want to go to date and time and adjust that for your date and time so that it matches up. So go ahead and set all of those things right now. The last thing we want to do is we want to scroll over to where it says format right here, okay? And we're going to format our memory card. You normally want to do this every time you put in your memory card because it's going to start this card off nice and fresh, and you'll have lots of room to take pictures on it. Warning though, this does delete every single picture that's on this memory card. So you want to make sure that you've backed up this memory card to your computer, to a couple other places, maybe cloud storage. You want to make sure that this memory card is totally backed up so that when you erase these, it's not a big deal. If this is a brand new card, you don't have to worry about that. There's no photos on here yet. So as standard practice, I like to always format when I start out. So let's go ahead and go to that. You'll click format. It's going to say all data will be lost, just as a warning. Go to OK, click OK. It's going to take a few seconds, and now your card is formatted. This is really important because it just keeps errors down. Sometimes you can have some errors, some glitches in the card if you don't do this all the time. So it's just good standard practice to always format your card when you're starting out on a new one, as long as all of your stuff is backed up already. Now that we've got that, you're pretty much ready to go, okay? I'm going to teach you how to do manual shooting and all kinds of stuff in future tutorials, but for now, let's just go up here and you're going to set this to P. You're going to set this little dial to P for program mode. And what that means is that this camera is going to take care of you. It's basically just going to shoot on auto is what P means. And so let's turn it to P, and now you can go ahead and get started taking pictures, okay? Should be ready to go. You can focus on whatever you want, take a picture, and the camera should pretty much decide like your shutter speed, your aperture, all of that stuff. So, and it'll just take a picture, much like your phone would. It will just decide what the settings are, take a picture, you're good to go. So now you are using your camera. Like you can actually go out and start shooting on this, and you're ready to go. And that's it. Stay tuned for future tutorials. I'm going to show you how to do a lot of different things with this and really hone in all of your skills so you can really make these pictures awesome. But this gives you a good base, gets you started, shows you how to properly do everything, and should get you off to a really good start. If you have any questions, just put them below, And I'll also try and list some of the gear that I have here and some things that I recommend to get started with. If you don't have Photoshop, you might want to pick up a copy of that. You can do an online version. It's $9 a month or something, you know, pretty affordable. So I'll try and list all that below here. In the meantime, if you have any questions, again, please feel free to leave a comment below, and I hope this was helpful. Thanks a lot.